Good evening. This is K1KC. My name is Chris. I will be tonight's moderator for the Yellow River Digital Group System Fusion Wires XNet. Welcome to net number 61. The purpose of this net is to provide an outlet for YC Wires X and System Fusion radio owners to use the digital features of those devices. This net is hosted by the Yarddogs, which is simply a nickname for the Yellow River Digital Group. The Yarddogs were formed in the spring of 2017 for the purpose of advancing knowledge of amateur radio digital methods amongst its members. The Yellow River Digital Group maintains a web presence at yrdg.org and an email reflector at yellowriverdigitalgroup@groups.io. The Yarddogs request that no bridges to other digital platforms be connected to this room. That is, please do not access this room from DMR, D-Star, or a YSF or FCS reflector. Rather, make your access directly from a WiresX node. The Yarddogs thank you for your cooperation. All amateurs with System Fusion and WiresX capability are welcome to participate in this net. Doesn't matter which branch of the family tree you swing from, come on in. Isn't that right, Elmer? Volunteers are always welcome, even if only for a single session. The intent is that this net serve both as a social and technical virtual meeting place. Being that this is a directed net, we ask that you direct all of your communications through the net controller of that particular session. Tonight, that will be me, K1KC. Our assistant net control tonight, NX1Q. The backup is 43619, known as the State Line Room, courtesy of N4EXO. Any stations that provide public access to the Yarddogs room via their node can request listing on our web page. In that case, we publish what the node frequency and location is, and as well as what time the node will be connected. We will now accept check-ins, so please state your name, your city, your call sign, advise if you have traffic or not. Traffic is considered to be a question, a comment, or a suggestion, so check-ins may come now.
This is KJ4LY, Charles here in Gatesville. No traffic, Chris.
N4NT, Adam in Bristol, Tennessee, and I'll think of something by the time you get to me.
And 14XO, Tim Cedartown, no traffic. WC4FM, wondering over here in between. In and out.
Okay, recognizing KJ4LY, N4NT, N4EXO, WC4FM. For a minute there, Charles, I thought it was going to be just you and me. Anybody else? This is K1KC for the Yarddogs. KHLIN, Brad in Decula, Georgia. Good evening, Chris. No traffic. Check me in and out, please.
KN40FJ, Fort Valley, Virginia.
Kilo Charlie 6, Uniform Quebec Tango, Craig Rio Ranch in New Mexico, in and out.
WE4IAM, North West Tennessee, check me in and out.
All right, we picked up Brad, K8LIN, KN4OFJ, KC6UQT. Are there any other stations wishing to check in?
Net moderator, check in W5SLG. Elmer in the big country here in Abilene. Species unknown and cataloged.
Well, that's all right. Like I said, no matter what branch you swing from there. Well, we copy Elmer, W5SLG. Are there any other check-ins?
N8ND, Mike, Alliance, Ohio.
Whiskey Echo 4, India Alpha Mike. Dennis in Palm Branch, Tennessee. Check me in and out.
All right, we picked up Mike, N8ND, and Dennis, WE4IAM, in and out. Are there any others? All right, then we shall proceed, and we are going to start off. Well, tonight's subject is called Modulation Techniques for your Yaesu Fusion Radios. So we're going to start off with the question, and anybody who knows the answer, please throw out your call sign there, and I'll give you a call, and you can answer the question. The question is, what type of modulation does your Yaesu Fusion Radio employ when in analog mode?
KN4OFJ.
Okay, Jim, go ahead.
I just thought I'd break the law, Jim. I'm probably wrong here, but frequency modulation.
Well, I'm glad somebody stepped out on the log there. All right, we got one for FM. Anybody else? Well, I'll take that as a no. The answer is, in every case, your Yaesu Fusion Radio Manual claims variable reactance modulation is used except when in the C4FM mode. Now, we, of course, are accepting the FT991, which has other analog modes. Concerning emissions designators, the first four characters give you a bandwidth figure. The fifth character describes what type of modulation the main carrier, and includes these emissions where the main carrier is angle modulated. That fifth character can be F for frequency modulation or G for phase modulation. Now, I'm looking at, we take an example, FTM100. Your manual says F1D, F2D, F3E, but then says variable reactance modulation. The sixth character describes the nature of the signals modulating the main carrier, and this is very important to us. And it includes the sixth character as a 1, means digital, on, off, or quantized with no modulation. 2, digital with modulation. 3, a single channel containing analog information. The seventh character describes the type of information to be transmitted and includes A for telegraphy to be received orally, D for data transmissions, telemetry, and telecommand, E for telephony, and W for a combination of types. So we were just saying the FTM 100 in something other than C4FM is F1D, F2D, and F3E. So let's put up an example here. Foregoing the first four characters, F3E would be a single analog channel of telephony which is frequency modulated. Huh? You just said these radios use variable reactance modulation instead of frequency modulation. What's up with that? Well, in typical electronics fashion, to make things clear as mud, let's look at the exciter section of an FM transmitter. In the reactance-modulated direct method, the exciter section has three basic components: the carrier oscillator, the reactance modulator, and the buffer amplifier. The carrier oscillator generates a stable sine wave at the rest frequency. It must linearly change frequency when fully modulated with no measurable change in amplitude. The buffer amplifier acts as a constant, high-impedance load on the oscillator to help stabilize the oscillator frequency. It may produce a small amount of gain. The modulator acts to change the carrier oscillator by application of a message signal. This means the audio input is connected to our reactance modulator. The positive peak of the message signal generally lowers the oscillator's frequency to a point below the rest frequency, and the negative peak of the message raises the oscillator to a frequency to a value above the rest frequency. So the greater the peak-to-peak message signal, the greater the oscillator deviation. The reactance modulator takes its name from the fact that the impedance of the circuit acts as a reactance that is connected in parallel with the resonant circuit of the oscillator. As the reactance varies, the oscillator moves from rest frequency. That is, it deviates. Now, reactance modulation is not the only method of angle modulation, as we stated before. Another is called phase modulation, and once again it alters the carrier of the oscillator, but does so by changing the instantaneous phase of the carrier wave. The peak amplitude and the frequency of the carrier signal are maintained constant, but as the amplitude of the message signal changes, the phase of the carrier changes correspondingly. And if I'm not mistaken, you can use the same type of receiver to demodulate both types. So let's examine why, besides F3E, our manuals specify F1D, F2A, and F2D. In the case of F1D, we are speaking of a frequency-modulated digital on and off with no modulation data telemetry or telecommand transmission. In the case of F2A, we are speaking of a frequency-modulated digital with modulation Morse code transmission. In the case of F2D, we're speaking of a frequency-modulated digital with modulation data telemetry or telecommand transmission. You can pick out right off the bat where some of these things are happening on fusion radios. You've got maybe it's IDing, or maybe you're syncing with a node radio. So, okay, what the heck is telecommand? Well, imagine you're in a mobile and you put your mobile fusion radio into the Wires X mode so as to manipulate your home node radio. You are telecommanding. But the original question was, what type of modulation scheme do our Yaesu fusion radios use in the analog mode? The literature calls them FM radios, but the manuals say they are variable reactance modulation schemes. Which one are they? And here's the typical electronics answer: they are both. The secret lies in the method of modulating the frequency. And remember, in the description, it called the frequency modulator actually a frequency oscillator. They called the modulator a variable reactance modulator. So, back in our description of an FM transmitter exciter, we detailed the reactance modulated direct method, which is what our radios use. Simply put, we are using a varying reactance to modulate our carrier's frequency. That is frequency modulation. Basically, without any input, the carrier oscillator hums along at a nominal frequency, which we have determined with a VFO or a memory. A long time ago, we used to use crystals, but not anymore. So, if the carrier oscillator oscillates, that means it occupies a certain amount of bandwidth, right? Yes, but not as much bandwidth as when we apply signals from our modulator in the form of reactance, as determined by the input audio. What happens now? The carrier oscillator oscillates to a greater degree, producing sidebands. In the FM world, we call this deviation. Narrow deviation limits these excursions as opposed to those of a wideband deviation. Narrowband and wideband are relative terms and can have many meanings. To further complete the picture, our FM transmitter exciter section is followed by a frequency multiplier section, then a power section comprised of a driver amplifier, and then a power output amplifier. Now consider the amount of energy in the sidebands at each stage along the way. The carrier oscillator at rest has minimal energy in those sidebands. Remember, in an FM transmitter, the amplitude is relatively constant, but the sidebands are theoretically infinite. Okay, so now we massage the carrier oscillator with some reactance modulation, and the sidebands grow. Next, the buffer amplifier might give a small boost to the energy in those sidebands. Remember, each boost expands the sidebands, not the amplitude. Then we multiply the frequency and the sidebands grow, introducing energy where none existed before. Next, we boost the power with a driver amplifier, and then a power output amplifier. Well, I did good. I managed to kill the battery. Where did I fall off at?
Something about the left bulb connects to the right bulb, somewhere around there, I think.
Well, I'll just repeat the very last paragraph. It's very short. The bottom line is that, yes, these are FM transmitters, but that modulation of the frequency is accomplished by another modulator, a reactance modulator. Yes, sir, we are modulating the modulator, and I'm your moderator, K1KC. All right, crash battery. Any more check-ins tonight?
Conyers, Georgia, no traffic.
All right, picked up good. Anybody else? I should be more careful about those batteries. Well, not knowing where I left off at, I think you get the picture there. The frequency modulation in our Yaesu fusion radios is accomplished by reactance modulation. So sometimes it's not the best choice of words. Frequency modulation should be called frequency oscillation. But then again, frequency modulation is apt too, so it's the way it goes. Sometimes you have to explain yourself, and then it's even more confused. All right, well, let's go to the top of the list there, and NX1Q, I'm calling on you.
Well, I better turn the volume down on the other radio. Well, good evening, and good evening all. Very good to hear everyone tonight. Looking forward to everyone's comments. I used to go on last, so I had to scurry to pick up the radio. Because I guess, logged in second there, I guess, for logging purposes. But not much tonight, just a little scatterbrained. But spent part of the week getting the portable digital note up in the car, and been cruising around with that now for a couple of days, and it's pretty solid, and a little different experience running around with that going on. Kind of fun, to say the least. But on Monday, I had my Thunder stolen because I had it all rigged up and ready to go, and I got in the car and I'm like, dun 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 dun. And wouldn't you know it, it was the last day of my billing cycle on my cell phone bill, and my wireless hotspot ran out of data right as I plugged it all up. So I spent the day with the stuff on the car seat, not able to use it, and I said, I'm not going to spend money getting more data just for one day, so I'll wait till Tuesday. But got up and running Tuesday, and I found out that rolling around with the FT2, that the stock battery I have with it, it's actually kind of like the extended battery. They ship it with it. There is a smaller battery you can get. Usually it's the other way around, right? You have to buy the bigger battery. But, it can go all day. It can probably go 2 days, just in receive mode or direct mode or whatever. So, no trouble there. Laptop gets about 4 hours, but I found out that you could plug that into the USB cord, and even though it's not supposed to charge, it will charge while it's on. And if you set the settings just right, it'll just sit there on the seat for hour after hour and not shut down, so it'll work. All right, NX1Q back.
Well, Don, we're admiring you for exercising patience. Not many of us could do that, so good deal. I'm glad you got it going finally there. KJ4LY, tell us where you're at in your odyssey to refurbish your node antenna.
Well, good evening, Chris and Lynette. I'm still tinkering around. I've got one more piece of coax to check out, and a couple of them to put some ends on. I figured I'm probably going to have to replace one piece, and that's a 100-footer. I check this other one out here tomorrow. We'll see if that one works. If it doesn't, we'll go ahead and purchase that. That's about it. The antenna's ready to go. I got all the other stuff fixed up. I just been kind of dragging the feet on the coaxial there. Really don't want to buy another new piece, but it looks like I'm going to have to. And it's about 100 foot long, so and it's not the cheapest way out. But anyhow, we'll get that done in the next good day, no wind and warm weather. We'll get it back up on the tower and check it out. K1KC, KJ4LY.
Well, Charles, I'm going to agree with you, something you said the other day, and that is every few years you have to take whatever you got down and inspect it completely and find out what's really wrong with it that you didn't know about and didn't want to know about. But you're probably right about that. So I think I'm at that stage here. I have some things I probably need to take apart and take a look at them. All right, good to hear from you, Charles. Let's go on down to Adam. I think Adam might have some traffic. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, good evening, everybody on the net. Just wanted to chime in and say hey to everybody, and thanks to those that have been regulars on our net here in Bristol on Tuesday nights at 9:30. Thanks for checking in with us and providing some good information and running our numbers up just a little bit. I certainly appreciate that. I think we got a good little group going on that net, just like this one. So appreciate all the support there. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot to report. I'll just tell an interesting, or what I think would be halfway interesting story about my day real quick. Spent this morning in court. Sit there in a little room outside the courtroom for a few hours, just to find out the defendant didn't show up. And then it was supposed to be my day off, so I had to get dressed up and go in for that. So I figured while I was at it, I'd work a traffic detail after the fact, but I'll probably get scheduled for this same guy again on the day off. That's usually how it goes, but oh well, I don't live too far from the courthouse, and of course my other problem is that I don't live too far from the defendant. He's actually lives across the street from me, and that's why I'm in court over it, because I witnessed what happened. So interesting conundrum. So it takes about 6 months sometimes for our local judges to sign failure to appear warrants. So probably about six months from now, I'll catch him coming home or leaving, and there'll be an active warrant, and I can nab him. Hopefully, once I get him there, I can get him reassigned residency, and I won't have to worry about him being my neighbor anymore. So that's my day, and I'll turn it back over to net control. Appreciate you, Chris, and everybody on the net. It's N4NT.
You know, I watched some cop shows, whether, I don't know, this morning or last night or something. It was just unreal. Some of the things that happened. Of course, I used to work public safety, so I've seen a few things myself. So good to hear from you, Adam. Glad to report that the Bristol net is going well, which it is. So let's go on over to Cedartown. Talk to Tim and N4EXO.
Yeah, it's N4EXO, Tim, Cedartown, Georgia. And, yeah, I wouldn't want to be in that conundrum there, Adam. Have a guy living that close to you. But, appreciate what you do there. And, not much else going on here. But, you know, good subject there, Chris. Is interesting and kind of gets me trying to remember what I used to know about that stuff and kind of know. But, I was just thinking that if, it's good review stuff, and, maybe if you posted a couple of days on the net before, on the website or something, or in the email, what the subject was going to be, I could read up and maybe kind of keep up with you a little better there. But anyway, that was just a thought. That's about it from here, and it's N4EXO. Back to you, Chris.
Oh, I don't know, Tim. I don't know if I can let you. Yeah, I don't want anybody second guessing me there. I might say something wrong, you know.
You got it all right there, and like as usual. But yeah, I just thought about that. You know, that would my brain wouldn't hurt so bad when you start talking about that stuff if I reviewed a little bit before you start talking about it. But anyway, just about N4EXO.
Well, I try to put questions in there in a straightforward manner and answer those questions. And the thing that I found out is that sometimes the answers are not so straightforward. In particular, the night that we talked about bandwidth. And the government has everything to do with those answers not being so straightforward. So there you go. All right, good to hear from you. Well, Leonard said he was in and out. He sounded like he didn't feel so good. Let's check and see if he's there anyway. WC4FM, K1KC. Okay, he really did turn off the radio. Brad said he was in and out, but we'll also give him a chance. K-A-L-I-N, K-A-1-K-C. Well, maybe Brad and Leonard are having a nightcap together there. All right, Jim, you were not wrong. Yep. Frequency modulation is correct. It's just that the frequency modulated is further modulated by a reactance modulator. Or maybe that's not the best answer. Frequency modulation is not wrong. KN40FJ. Let's hear from Port Valley.
K1KC, KN40FJ. Hello, everybody on the net. I got to be truthful with you. I wouldn't have jumped out on that log and tried to break the jam if I knew how deep and swift the water was going to be shortly thereafter. Best I can figure, maybe I'm half or a third right, but hey, at least I jumped, I guess. Yeah, not much up here, Chris, not much up here. We're down about 35 degrees. It's a little wet and soggy bottom. Poor Valley is shed most of its leaves, so you can see a lot more of the river, and it's kind of a shame, you know, the brown is a little depressing, but then all the leaves get off the trees, and you can see where the streams and the river and the bottoms open up, so you can really see where you're at. So that is a benefit. And thanks for calling the net, and I figured maybe a half earth right, so I need to maybe learn to sit back and wait and listen a little bit. That was way over my head. I do have some kind of ideas of what you were talking about, but I weren't expecting it to get that technical. Anyways, thanks for having a good net down here with good information, and say us remember our country and our first responders, fellas. That'll be all from Port Valley. K1KC is KN40FJ on the side.
Well, AM to honoring our troops and our first responders. The reason the question came up was because if you look in the manual, it clearly says variable reactance modulation. And I got to think, well, wait a minute. It's supposed to be frequency modulation, isn't it? Well, it's both. So that's how that came about. All right, good to hear from you there, Jim. Let's see. Craig said he was in and out, but I'll give him a holler anyway. KC6, UQT. Well, now I'm beginning to understand how to add numbers to the net check-ins without having to listen to my diatribe. You check in and out right at the beginning. Okay. Let's see. I put a note here. What was that term that you used? SO something? What was that? W5SLG. Species unknown. That's what it was.
Species unspecified, I guess. You know, there's W5SLG here in Abilene. Sorry about that, I forgot to sign there. Well, there's, you know, you have one modulation and frequency and all that. There's so many of them. You know, been doing some reading where you were talking here, your F2 frequency phase, F2 modulations, AM signals, carrier multiple by bandwidth, shifted baseband, carrier. The list is endless, goes on and on and on. So in other words, it's all about the bandwidth, you know. I'm not a radio engineer, so for me to basically understand, all I know is you push the button and the radio talks. And if the antenna's not right,
either blow up your radio or you won't be heard. But interesting subject tonight on there. You know, I was once reading an article related to frequency modulation in regards to the different schemes of modulation. I think, you know, how communication is handled like between space stations, ground systems, and all that, encoding, decoding. It's just mind-boggling. But, you know, like everything else, bandwidth is a commodity here these days. You know, if you don't use it, you lose it. That's pretty much the fight we always face here. But anyway, good net as always there. What's your name? K1KC. Question for the group, though. I do have a question, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, you got it right. K1KC, and go ahead with your question.
Well, I'm happy to report the W5SLG shack station is coming along nicely. Both my dual bands are up and working, and I got to connect the Wires X node to the outside antenna. But I ran into a little snag. I cannot find my soldering iron nor my solder. It's probably one of the many boxes in the garage, but I do have a 50-foot cable, and I need about 30 feet. So I'm reading online all the different variations of what you should do with excess cable, what you shouldn't do with excess cable. Have you ever encountered this issue, Chris? What should I do with that excess cable? Should I roll it up? Should I just put it behind there? Now, reading several of the forums, it says it doesn't necessarily matter. Of course, other people say, oh, screw this and screw that. Or you're going to make a balance. So I'm not sure what to do on that extra cable. So we're talking about maybe feet of that. So 30, 40. I'll probably have about 20 feet of cable left.
Well, I would say if you put it in a fairly large loop, it's not going to have any effect. But let me put it out there to the group. Does anybody have a suggestion what he should do with the excess cable so that it does not interfere with his operations?
N4NT.
Go ahead, Adam.
I can say from experience, if like Chris said, if you put it in a large loop, it does not seem to interfere. I've got a couple like that, and I've had them stretched out 6 ways from Sundays to keep from looping them, and I finally just put them into loops and noticed absolutely no difference. N4NT back to net.
All right, there. Yeah, you know, obviously you can make a choke if you wind the cable tightly enough, but for VHF and UHF, I don't think you'd be winding it that tight by any means. So I think you put a big loop in there, and you're probably just fine there, Elmer.
K1KC, W5SLG, and the group here. Well, yeah, I kind of remember doing that, you know, and I did make a balance choke for the outside cable when I had LMR running, and repeater too as well to keep the noise level down there. But it was a different type of cable. But yeah, I was kind of reading that thing, so just making big. They said 12, and some other people said their 12's not big enough, so I'll just make a couple big loops. That should take care of it. Thanks, guys, for the info. I appreciate that. And we turn back to net control and leave you with the last quote of the day. And the quote of the day for today is, successful engineering is all about understanding how things break or fail. W5SLG in the big country. Back to net control.
And this is K1KC for the Yellow River Digital Group. Yeah, I saw that in the chat box there. Good words to remember. Speaking of different types of modulation and all that sort of thing, our digital system fusion signals employ at least 3 different other types of encoding besides all the encoding that goes on already. Golay, trellis, and proxag. It's just incredible. And what's really incredible to me is the mathematicians who can figure this stuff out, who can figure out these algorithms and everything. It's just amazing. All right, I'd like to go down to Mike in 8ND in Elias, home of the HD73. Mike, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody, and well, I stumbled on your webpage yesterday, the Yellow River Digital Group, the Beginner's Corner for Wires X and System Fusion, because I was looking for some reading about it since, just got into it. And it was very informative for the little bit that I read and everything, and I thought it was pretty interesting, the digital versus analog. I like that one kind of a lot, too. But so I saw that you had a net, so I decided to check in today. And I saw you also have a CW op room, which, because I love Morse code on HF, so I copied that down too and put that in my favorites on my software, because I have a FTM 100 as a node running 24/7 through my computer, my antenna, and I'm running a FT70D into it. When I sit down at my shack, I run it direct, but when I'm out walking around or upstairs in the house or at work, which I'm a mile away, so I'm pretty close, I can run it all on 5 watts, and it works real good. But I just thought I'd drop in and say hi, and it was interesting what you were talking about. Like the other fellow, a little over my head too, but it's all good. Maybe something will stick, or jump back in here one of these days if I hear something else. But I do have one question. And it probably, since it does pertain to what you're asking about, maybe it'd be better just to ask it at the end of the net. But it's up to you. It don't matter. So I'll give it back to you, and you let me know. N8ND.
Well, Mike, we're here to help, so go right ahead with your question.
Okay. I was going to buy, regardless, I'll probably still buy the FTM 400, the mobile rig there. But my biggest question, and I haven't really asked anybody else, I guess I asked one guy, but he didn't know right off the bat. And if you would, since you have A on that, I hear is digital and B is the analog, if you would register that and put that in a node, the 400, would you be able to talk analog on the B side, or was it like it does the 100, the radio is just specifically for digital?
Well, the biggest difference between those two, both of them have 2 bands, but the 400 will actually listen to 2 bands simultaneously. You can only talk on 1 band, obviously, at a time, and you've got to push the button and decide which one is going to be the band that you're going to talk on. But yeah, you could listen to a lot of the digital almost simultaneously on 400. So it's just got that one little, well, a few other advantages too, but that's probably the main.
Yeah, yeah. But if you actually like the node form, it would be a node where you would be running it off the internet, not off a repeater, not local. But he does fusion. That's why I had to have my my antenna, I have it up 40 feet, maybe tip 60 or something, or 58, or I think it's 18 feet. But I had to run it that way to be able to use the digital fusion, because as many Yaesu repeaters we got 2 in my town, a few others, nobody wants to hook it up to Wires X. So basically, I guess that's what I'm asking the question. If you would stick it into the node for Wires X, kind of like, would you be able to still use the B side while it's while it's in the node form on A?
I should have listened to your question better, Mike. No. When it becomes a node radio, it's going to do one thing only. Now, if you have it in direct mode, of course, you've got a couple of different things. If you have it if you're using it as a PDN, portable digital node, and you have it in direct mode, it's not going to be putting out RF at all. It's just going to be using the digital stream to the internet. And if you have it in the access point mode, it's only going to be transmitting on the one band that you've assigned it to. So the answer is no. If you're going to use it as a node radio and you're looking at, well, it's cheaper to buy a 100 than a 400, and I'm only going to use it as a node radio, well then, yeah, a 100 is a better idea.
Okay, because that's what I was wondering. Because my big thing was I do have 2 local analog repeaters that I like to listen to too, and if I'm trying to keep that running all the time, I wouldn't be able to buy any duplexers in case I invested in the repeater type to alleviate the 2-meter 440 that I would be using around here. So I'd probably just have to get a switch and have 2 radios and switch from one to the other, so I wouldn't really have to take it out of the Wires X mode or nothing. Because, you know, you got to hit 3 buttons on the 100 all, you know. I mean, it's not that difficult, but it's I guess it's easier to have 2 radios and just have a switch and go back and forth. But thank you so much. That's all I was asking, which I didn't think it would, but I wanted to make sure and try to get it clarified, and so I appreciate that. N8ND.
K1KC. Well, you made me think of a good point there, and that point is that the radio, any of these dual band radios, has a diplexer built into the radio. Therefore, it only has one output port. So when the radio's consumed with a particular job, then it can't use the second band for any other purpose. It can't use that port for any other purpose. And if it's in direct mode, well, then it's not using the port at all. Would anybody else like to comment on that? Because I might have missed something there. Anybody else?
Into it.
Yeah, Jose, go right ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to answer the gentleman's question. I have an HRI 200 with a FTM 100 attached, and like you said, once it's a slave or a donor, you usually call it a donor node, a donor radio. That's all it does. I don't hear anything else from the other side because it is dual band, right? But I don't hear it like I do on the FTM 400. When I have the 400 communicating RF-wise to the 100, I can hear the both bands. I have like the police precincts here in New York City on the B band, and then I lower it because you don't want to have all that interaction. But to answer your question, it only does one thing while at a time. And I just wanted to check in to support the net, and it's a great net. So back to next.
All right, very good. Thank you, Jose. Mike, does that help you out there?
Yes. Yes, it does. Everything was real helpful, yes. Just what I had thought was confirmed, and definitely. Thanks a lot for all that. I'll give it back to you, net control there. N8ND.
All right, good to hear from you. Glad you checked in, and glad that you got something off the website there. I'm glad it was of use to somebody. All right, let's see. Dennis said he was in and out, but WE4, I am Dennis. Are you there by any chance? K1KC. Okay, Dennis was truly in and out, as were the other gentlemen. So let's go on down to Sid. Sid, how you doing, my friend?
Chris and everybody on the net from K4SID. And boy, it was a nice day today. Got out a little bit to take the XYO to a doctor's appointment. That's about all I could do today. Haven't been doing much in the way of radio. I get on in the early morning, and that's about all I can do, and just tie up with other things. It doesn't look like it's going to end too soon, at least till after Thanksgiving. We'll see how that goes. We're going to be cooking a boneless turkey breast, combination of pressure cooker from frozen to done, and then in the broiler long enough to get it brown. We'll see how that goes, because I can do it all in an hour. And that'll be a good deal, Chris, what can I tell you? With that, we'll turn it back to net control. K1KC net control from K4SID.
Well, that sounds like an excellent plan there, and it doesn't take all day there. Very good. Hope you enjoy that, and we'd love to hear from you a little more often, but I know you got duties to attend to. So let's go back to Jose into LRB. Jose, got any more comments tonight?
No comments. I forgot, and I got to the net about at 20 after 9, and I decided to listen in for a while. Great net. You're actually conveying information. I love that. That's what a net should be. So I'm very happy with this net, and congratulate you for having such a fine net. That's it. So I'll give it back to the control from New York City, and so.
Okay, good to hear from you there. Are there any other stations who'd like to check into the Yellow River Digital Group System Fusion and Wires X net?
KF4, VQA. We're just down here in Monroe, Georgia. Hello, Chris, everybody on the net.
KF4 VQA, K1KC. We were beginning to think the hogs ate you there, Jeff. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to check in when the net started, but I got sidetracked and was doing stuff down here with helping the XYL out. So had the radio off then, and I thought, well, let me see if I can get back in. But anyways, sounded like a really good net they had, and I'm sorry I missed it. But nothing much going on here in Monroe, Georgia. Just down the road from you, Chris, and some of the other guys. But anyways, I just spent some time today watching some videos to get reacquainted with my FT70D HT and that T100, just to kind of make sure I'm remembering stuff on them. So when I go to press the button, I won't go whoops. So anyways. Thanks for checking me in there, Chris, and I'll just say 73 to everybody on the net. Have a good week. Back to net from KF4 VQA.
All right, Jeff, I'm glad you made it in there tonight. I was getting worried about you there. Are there any other check-ins? Okay, we're missing Darla tonight and a few others, but I have a question, and it may pertain to more than one radio, but specifically for those people that are using an FTM 400 as a PDN radio, you can turn the sound down, and the speaker still works. You can plug a speaker into the speaker jack, and the speaker still works. When I say it works, it still does the courtesy beep. So, and I went in, and of course the mute button doesn't have any effect on that on the front panel. And I'm pretty sure I turned there's a setting for pushing the button to beep, high, low, and off, and that doesn't affect it. I should know the answer to this, but what is the method of shutting that courtesy beep off, or is there a method?
Well, let's see here. I think I might have a big screen. I'm reading something. To turn off the beat after someone transmits, you might go to Setup Screen, then press the TXRX button, then press the digital button. It has to do some. Hang on, keep scrolling up here. Then press the digital button, then set option for standby beep to off.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sir Elmer. And that's what I will do.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's Mr. Pertain, but that's what I googled about. I've got 3 hits on the same things in this case. In this case, if the answer is incorrect. If you are getting them after digital transmit on the YSOTM to turn off the beep after someone transmits, you want to go to the setup screen, then press the TXR button, then press the digital button, then set option for standby beep is out. Yeah, I think that might be what you're looking for.
Well, I'm going to find out in short order, so if not, we'll keep working on it there. Let's see. Dallas, if you are copying me, you need to either connect directly to 40383, not to 30627, but 40383. Dallas, if you copy me, 40383, and we'll stand by a little bit for you to connect. And while we're doing that, are there any other stations who would like to check in tonight for the Yellow River Digital Group System Fusion at WiseX Net? All right, not getting anything from Dallas just yet. Any more comments? Anybody want to say anything? Just trying to give Dallas a couple of minutes here, and then we'll wrap it up if we don't hear from him pretty shortly there. Anybody else?
N4NT.
Yes, sir, Mr. Adam, go ahead.
Hey, I just wanted to say thank you to Elmer for that piece of information. I have been trying to figure that out for the longest time, and as you were giving that out, I was following the steps. I'm on my 991, but I have the 400 on, and I followed the steps, and it doesn't do that anymore. I have the volume turned all the way down, and I'm on the frequency I'm using to check into this net, and the beep is gone. So thank you very much. I appreciate that information. That's something I've been trying to figure out for a while. So, Chris, that definitely works. Thanks, Elmer. Back to net. This is N4NT.
Roger that, Adam. And if you talk to Dallas, would you tell Dallas to connect to the Yarddogs room? Always to the Yarddogs room. That's the only place that he'll be able to connect to me if he wants to get in and talk to us directly, or if, obviously if W4UD is connected, he can just come in on RF there. But if he wants to connect, this node needs to come in on the Yarddogs room.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, I've seen him connect through the room before, so I don't know if he just grabbed the wrong one mistakenly there, but yeah, he should be able to get into the 6.7 repeater on RF, come through this node as well, N4NT.
I'm not sure if he's trying to connect to us at all, but I've got a couple of connect requests from him on one of my standalone nodes, and no connections are allowed there. So they're all in the Yarddogs room, so he won't be able to reach me via any other way than the Yarddogs room. So he may or may not be trying to contact us there. So if you'll pass that along. All right, thank you very much. That concludes tonight's Yellow River Digital Group System Fusion and WiresXNet. I would like to thank each and every participant for joining in and helping making net number 61 a success. Please pass the word around to other System Fusion and WiresX owners about the net. Direct them to yrdg.org or Yellow River Digital Group at groups.io. 73, and good night from K1KC.